Manchester United, with that 4-4 draw on Monday night, just an extraordinary game. Are there positive? I know Gary said at one stage during the game, look, regardless of what happens, I can live with this style of football. Are there positives, though?
There's certainly positives from United going forward. When you think of the goals last year, they were just barely averaging above a goal a game. This year, it looks like it's just about 2 goals a game. So, yeah, clearly, they're a better package going forward. Of course, the concern is defensively, the goals they're giving up and the chances they're giving up. The teams against United seem to create chances very easily. Just seems to be 1 or 2 quick passes and they're in on top of the goalkeeper. And when you look where Villa are and the strengths of them, and you look at United midfield, you'd like to think Villa will certainly get a bit of joy on the back of United's midfield and across United's back 3, back 5. But having said that, I do think United's attacking players can cause Villa problems today. So it could be anything today. But United, for all the positives going forward, defensively and midfield, I've still got huge question marks over them, and that tells you in the table. But when you look at the table, United still have the potential to have a very, very good season in terms of getting in the top 4 or 5. It's there for them. They just have to tighten up more at the back.
And if they win today, they're only 4 points off Aston Villa. And we're now talking about what a fantastic season that they're having at this stage. But for Manchester United, because of the reasons that Roy gave there about that kind of the defence and the protection of the defence from midfield, is that why maybe it doesn't feel quite so positive about Manchester United?
I think that's right. You know, we looked at the start of the season, we said about Manchester United they wanted to be challenging and, you know, challenge for titles. Right now, it's difficult. You know, there's no way getting away from that. For the manager, I think that he hasn't really settled on his back 3. You know, I think you look at the game the other day, he's changing centre-backs in the second half of the game. And, you know, you don't really want to be changing your centre-halves unless one of them's injured. Your midfield, obviously, Casemiro's missing today. Ugarte comes in and Bruno Fernandes is playing there. The way Unai Emery wants to play, he wants to play with, you know, his wide men that come in behind that midfield. And, you know, Bruno Fernandes is a creator. He wants to create goals. He wants to get assists. He wants to score. You know, his defensive side of things is not, you know, he's not great. He can do it, but you know, you want him to give that extra yard to get himself back into a defensive position. Aston Villa are going to look to get him behind that, and you know, like I say, it's going to be difficult. But then on the flip side, you look at Manchester United's attacking line. They can create, they can score goals, and you know, like Roy said, they can hurt Aston Villa today. So, you know, we could be in for anything today.
But Manchester United fans, as they always do, have been crying out for some of the younger players to make their way into the squad. And now Ruben Amorim has come out and he's answered a couple of questions around this and started off quite gently in the earlier days, saying they just need to be good enough and then they'll get their chance. But he's now started to talk about maybe a sense of entitlement amongst some of the younger players, that they feel that they deserve a place in the squad.
Yeah, you have to fight hard. We've said it managers before. When you've got young players at big clubs, they're obviously you've got the talent, but it's the other side of it, that mentality. And you've got to earn the right to play. And when you get opportunities, you've got to take it. So maybe some of these younger United players that he's talking about haven't done enough for him. You have to build up that trust with the manager. Say, yeah, for all United's problems, there's not enough. If you're talking about Mainoo and people like that, they've obviously not got the trust of the manager yet. So you've got to build that trust. So when you go away from home in particular, and that manager's looking, can I trust this player to go out and do a job for Man United? Then you'll get your opportunity. But these lads obviously haven't built up that trust yet. And I do agree, a lot of young players now waltz around the place thinking, I've got this talent. But you need more than that. Especially if you're playing for the big clubs like Man United, it's a big responsibility. There's a lot of pressure, but you embrace that. Like we've seen with some of the new players who come into United. OK, they're not young players, but they've embraced that pressure. And the 1 or 2 young players coming through United, we've said it many times before, talent is not enough. It's what you do day in, day out on that training pitch. You earn the right to play for Man United, and you also have to earn the right to stay in the team. It's well and good getting in and getting an opportunity. You've got to take it, you've got to stay there and end up hopefully over the next 5-10 years playing hundreds of games for Man United, and that comes from trust and belief in the manager.
Do you think there's an element of the fact that Manchester United's academy has been so successful and they have made, you know, so many successful careers from academy products, that maybe there's a sense of expectation there that this will just happen naturally, rather than players feeling that they have to put, that as Roy says, the more practical elements in place? Definitely.
You know, you look at Manchester United's academy over the years, they've produced time and time again. And, you know, it's like what Roy's saying, that Manchester United, there's standards. And you've got to be consistent as well. You can't just expect that you've got talent that you're going to play. You know, you've got to work hard, and that comes day in, day out. if the manager's looking at certain players that are younger and they're not, being consistent every day in training, you're not going to play at the weekend. There's players there that are probably training better than you that will be in the team. So it's Manchester United. It's a massive club. It's the biggest football club for me in the world, and standards are high. And if you're not, going to them standards, then you're not going to play. So you have to be consistent. And when you get opportunities, whether it's 15 minutes, whether it's 10 minutes, you've got to go and play well.
But even for these young players coming through, part of playing for Man United or any big club, you've got to show a bit of character and a bit of personality. The word we use is you've got to be consistent. You've got to get into really good habits. I know there's a lot of talk over the years about Scholesy and Butty and the Nevilles coming through and Becks and people like Giggsy. These were brilliant players, but brilliant characters. They dealt with pressure from young players. I know we've seen clips over the years when Alan Hansen said, you went out with young kids, but these were top lads. These were talented kids, and a great example to all the other young players coming through United. They had talent, but they worked their socks off. They were big personalities. They enjoyed the pressure playing for Man United. They were happy to get the ball in front of 75,000 people and deal with that type of pressure. And clearly at this moment, these young players that the manager's talking about haven't reached that level yet. But hopefully over the next few months, years, they get that opportunity, they take it. But it's character and personality is key for me for a Man United player.
And you mentioned Kobbie Mainoo in particular, and he's not really been helped by the... we're not being helped by the people who are banging on the studio from outside. But Kobbie Mainoo's not been helped by the fact that his brother is wearing the T-shirt, and he's making him kind of the poster boy for the Manchester United young players who aren't sort of making it through to the first team.
Yeah, I mean, his brother, the first thing you do is ring up and go, what are you doing that for straight away? Don't help him out. But something's happening, we only see and we go, oh, Mainoo's a good player, why isn't he playing in front of Casemiro? But we're not we're not watching every minute of the day, when they're coming into training, how are they training? Are they dominating training? Is he much, much better than Casemiro in training, or is he just going through? And we never get to see that bit, do you know what I mean? And you have to trust the manager. If you're a fan of Man United, you've got to trust the manager and go, right, he must be seeing something that we're not seeing. And that's why he's not playing. And you've got to ask Mainoo that. I might be wrong and he might be ripping it up in training. The manager don't like him. Then the manager's got to look at himself and go, don't chop your nose off to spite your face.
But everyone thinks when a young player's not playing, they should go out on loan and do something else. But I've said it before, the biggest challenge is right in front of you. A few years ago, Phil Foden wasn't a regular at Man City, and everyone was saying, Foden needs to go out on loan. And Pep said, no, he's going to stay here. He's working with top-class players day in, day out. And this is where he's going to learn his trade. He doesn't have to go to another club. And it's almost the same for these young players at United. The biggest challenge is the one right in front of you. Don't worry about other clubs. If it doesn't work out, yeah, you can move, of course.
Yeah, I agree. He shouldn't want to go on loan. He's playing at Man United. Ashley said, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Not the biggest team, but one of the biggest clubs in the world. We've seen it, a prime example here with Harvey Elliott. He leaves Liverpool to come on loan to play football, and he don't play. So stay at the club, fight for your place. Easy option going, let me go out on loan. If I get taken on loan, that means I'm playing every week. He's got to be fighting to get in Man United. When you leave Man United, you're only going that way. You're not going, he's not going Real Madrid. I don't think so.
I think when you're a professional footballer, nobody should guarantee you're going to play week in, week out. Nobody should be given the guarantee, no matter how good you are. You've got to earn the right week in, week out. Not to say, I'm going to go out on loan and play 10, 15, 20 games, and then clubs under pressure to play you. No, again, if you're playing for Man United, if you have to sit in the bench for 4, 5, 6 months, then do it. Learn and look at other players and what you do day in, day out. Get into really good habits. And a lot of these younger players, unfortunately, I think have got into really bad habits.